All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Malice Experience. I'm, of course, Mr. Malice, or Adius Day, depending on, what direction you want to go with it. And, of course, as always, I am joined by everyone's favorite bottom, Mystic Salon. 2 weeks, and we haven't lost the flow.
I'm everybody's favorite bottom. That kind of makes me sound like a super friendly person.
The friendliest. The friendliest.
However, even though that's true, I don't really like it shared. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Yeah. I think it's been about a 2 week hiatus because 2 weeks ago we did the panel. Then we didn't do a show for whatever reason, and then last weekend, I had to skip out because it was my son's birthday, and so here we are. Everybody, we are back. We have returned from the depths of the dark abyss. Right, some shit like that.
Yes.
So we got a chill show for you today. Either next week or the week after. We're probably considering doing another panel. We're going to get more people back on. Definitely want to get Bonnie and Curtis back on. See if we can't get Michael Ford onto that panel. Maybe get Scarlett on there. I think that would be an interesting combination. Get Scarlett and Nate on at the same time. Ooh, how would that be? I think that would be fucking awesome to get Scarlett and Nate at the same time. Ooh, God. I mean,
I totally fanboy over Scarlett anyway, so.
Yeah. So, no, definitely. I think that'd be fucking awesome. So,
yeah, it would be nice to be part of a panel, considering.
Mm-hmm. Hey, no, I mean, it would have been nice to have you on the panel that you missed, but, shit happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
C'est la vie, c'est la vie.
Don't get me started.
So, we're just going to jump right into this shit. Mystic, what deck you got for us? What big, thick deck do you have for us tonight?
Well, it's always a big, thick deck, even when it's not a big, thick deck and it's a little teeny micro deck. I still like them all. They're all beautiful in their own way. Yes, Sophie, I am feeling much better. Thanks for asking. So tonight's deck is the Corrupted Tarot.
Ooh, sounds wonderful.
It is different. It is something that I honestly can't remember. I think I got it from Tarot Arts. I'm not sure. But it's Corrupted Tarot by Wormwood. This is the little book that comes with it. Have not read it, obviously. I don't say obviously, but usually I don't. But this is exactly what the front of the box looks like. I don't know anybody if you've utilized this deck or if you've seen it, heard of it, but it is a really good deck. I have enjoyed it. Haven't spent a whole lot of time with it. I like to learn my deck and know my deck a little bit before I sleep with. Work with my deck. So, I'm gonna share a couple of cards. All right, now I'm excited. Okay, and no, Rook, it's not Luciferian. Jesus, Lord, mercy, help us all. So let's look at a couple cards. First of all, cardstock is pretty cool. It is a mix of gloss and matte. The back is reversible, so get a good look at that back. It is an interesting kind of world tree.
Dude, that is like gloss on a whole other level, man.
Oh, it's gloss.
Yeah, man. Like when you say gloss, like that shit is like, it looks like somebody spit shined that motherfucker.
It's also silver foil on the edges. But what's really cool is this is a bordered deck that I actually really love because the front, not gloss. Now there is silver foil inlay and it is textured inlay. So this is the Magician.
That artwork is just fucking amazing.
And Scarlet, yes, this is the Wormwood deck. Artwork is fantastic. Corrupted, yes, that is it. The High Priestess. We've talked. That is so funny. I got it yesterday. Came in yesterday. That is too cool. Or was it today? It came in today. Okay, anyway. That's weird. So, I get so many decks, I don't know when they come in. That's terrible. But yeah, so here we go with that one. This Empress is like every single one of these is just yeah, gorgeous to me. Like I absolutely love
Each
this
one's
one.
slightly like a slightly different styling. Like it's the same
Yeah,
styling, but like some like that last one was like a little bit brighter. That one that one you
yeah,
just paled up that was a little bit darker.
exactly. Look at this one. Very paranormal, ghosty.
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
is the Hierophant.
Very fast,
Hierophant.
very phasmophobia.
The reading cloth, the altar cloth. Oh my God, yes, it is freaking insane. I showed Malice before we started. Might as well show everybody else too. This thing is freaking just like, and I was like, I want this in a tattoo already. Oops. I mean, that's freaking insane.
That is beautiful. That is absolutely
Ugh,
wonderful. I love how that looks. It looks
just
great.
drives me nuts. But yeah, so if you look at the last card I just had up and then compare it with this card, again, like you said, it's a completely different style. Um, Let me get a couple of the minors. How's that for a night?
It looks like a jester meets a knight. That's fucking lit.
Yeah. Um, King of Wands. I mean, this is just insane. It is an absolutely insane deck. One of Cups. Then you have a whole new style with the Cups too. I'm going to show a couple of these, and then I'm going to shuffle to read because I'm ready to do a little read. Um, there you go. Yeah, that was the very first thing I said. As soon as I saw that tarot cloth, I'm like, that is a tattoo. But then you're like, I don't want to steal somebody else's art. But I was like, oh, that is something I could truly get behind. So since this is a deck that I've literally never used before, I am going to have to give it a few good shuffles. So I apologize for the noise. Um, and this deck shuffles like butter. Oh, so beautiful. So
For that
beautiful.
ridiculously high gloss back,
I
dude. I
know.
mean that's like that reminds me of like that high polish shit that they do for concrete floors. So like you
Uh-huh.
look like you can see yourself in it. Like I could see like the rainbow effect, like when your ring light
Yeah.
hit it.
Like a polyglass, like polycarbonate type
Yeah,
thing.
that's insane, man. That's
Yeah.
insane.
But it's only glossy on the back, which, I've never, I mean, and even the matte side is a little bit of a gloss to it. Like it's not a full on matte. I guess you'd call it semi-gloss, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not a artistico in that fashion. But it's just gorgeous deck, and then the imagery is like I'm just, ooh, it's something else. I have a couple Halloween decks, but I don't know if it's a Wormwood deck. But I was just telling Rook, I'm like, I got these. They came in, and they did come in today. I got this one, and I got the 8-bit tarot because I'm a nerd. Um, and I was like, I don't remember buying these, which is kind of pitiful. I mean,
Well,
I don't want to.
I wouldn't say pitiful. I mean, you buy a lot of shit, especially when it comes to decks.
Oh yeah, I would probably. I don't know. I need to value my collection at some point, but I did hit 300, so
Damn, dude.
it's bad. It's bad, truly. Um, yes, I mean it's been a while since we've pulled some cards, so let's get some on the road here and see what we got. I just I said it sucks a little bit because it's a brand new deck. I want to make sure we're nice and cleaned off here, but um, oh, just saw another card flash. Oh, so pretty. All right. So what is the corrupted deck going to tell us about today? You've got to be kidding me. I shuffled, I swear. Full 8 of Wands and Judgmenta. Dogs are making funny noise. So, being that it's been a while since we've done a tarot in here, I would venture to say that we're looking at some new things on the horizon. The Fool. often speaks of new things, new journeys, new processes, us stepping out into the world, although albeit potentially foolhardily, meaning maybe we're not prepared and we do it anyway. It's like stepping in front of the bus and hoping somebody prevents us from getting hit by the bus, or taking that leap of faith, not knowing what the outcome may be, but knowing you can't sit still. Judging by the Fool next to the Eight of Wands, I'm going to say it's the latter. This is one of those opportunities to actually go out and try something new, no matter how hard it is, and take the plunge, take the risk, because the risk is something you need to do. Doesn't mean it's going to turn out well, unfortunately, but it does mean that you need to take that risk or put that effort in to see if that's going to be what needs to happen, and that's coming from the combination with the Eight of Wands. Eight of Wands is often about achievements, and it's often about changes. If you look at it numerologically, we're looking at like Ouroboros, things that are going to constantly change, but always curl back into its normal, infinity symbol. You starting, always ending, always starting. There's never an actual point. And that change and transformation in the Eight of Wands tells me that this Fool is not the foolhardy, kind of dumb Fool that's just kind of being an idiot. This is the Fool that's taking on a new thing and going out and stepping out into a very difficult area. Going to have some really hard times. It's going to suck. Maybe you'll have a good outcome, maybe not, but it's got to be done to get to the next step. And then our third card, Judgment. A lot of times, I think when people see or pull a Judgment card, our first line of thought is judgment, like being judged or judging something. But truly, Judgment is really about the day of reckoning, or the rebalancing of the scales, as it will. So no matter how much energy you put to be on one side of the scale, to balance that scale, on Judgment, it's going to be balanced whether you like it or not. Whether this means you've worked hard enough to put in the energy to make it work and it's going to be good, or you have not put in that energy and this is going to be a massive shift of explosion of energy because it's going to snap. Think of it like a branch, right? And so if you have a long-standing branch of wood, well, obviously of wood, but it's old. It's long-standing. It's structured. It's a piece of wood that is strong and it's been there in a while. And you start to bend it, it breaks. In this instance of judgment, you're looking at how far can you bend that green branch because of the Fool, right? We're talking about Fool energy. We're not talking about the world end energy. The world card. I mean, not the world end. Freudian slip. I don't know. But we're talking about this new Fool energy. So think more of a green branch, right? A green, pithy branch that if you bend it, it gives really, really, really well. So that is the energy that is coming in from Judgment here, is that how much energy you're going to put into something or build into something before it either snaps and smacks you in the face, because it's going to have to come to its day of judgment. It's going to have to reckon. It's going to have to balance. So don't put too much weight on one side of that scale, or the scale is going to flop over sideways. So from an energy perspective, again, we're working on something. We're taking a chance on something that we're really not sure of. It may be good, it may not be, but you have to do it. Eight of Wands is pretty much saying so right now. But just be prepared that if you aren't looking at it the right way, it's going to smack you in the face and it's going to correct itself regardless. So step lightly. Step lightly. That would be the message of energy. Make calculated decisions. Be careful with what you're doing, but don't fail to take the risk this next week or so. That is what I would do.
Rock on. Rock on. Lovely
Dude, I
deck.
love this deck.
Yeah,
this is amazing.
Deck. It's a lovely deck. Totally.
I'll have to use it again.
Yeah. That is definitely, that's a thick deck.
Look at the Six of Pentacles. I don't want to belabor it, but look at that.
Dude, that's lit.
I know. And you're right. Every card is different. Four of Wands. I mean, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through like developing the what I think I'm going to be calling the balance oracle, right? And that's making me jealous. Like it makes me want to like redesign some shit. I mean, you've seen some of the cards, right?
Yeah.
You've seen them.
I like the style, so
a
lot.
So, so we're about halfway done with that. So, by the way, an announcement to make for everybody here. Okay. So, initially with the book of Baphomet, Conversations with the Horned One, I set an initial $2,000 kind of like funding point, right, for that book, in order to get an editor, things like that. So thanks to a donator that wishes to remain anonymous, we have officially reached our initial $2,000 goal, right? So that's including the very generous $500 donation from Scarlett and Nate, $200 from Little Tree Sap, and the rest of it was covered. It was $1,300 covered by an anonymous a donor that I know who the person is, but they wish to remain anonymous. So we have reached the initial $2,000 goal. We have an editor working on the aspects of the book that are finished, and so that's also going to be helping organizing things and kind of like getting it on that professional level. So we're great. One of the things that I want to try to do, so initially the idea was to self-publish the book and then purchase the copies and send those copies to the people that wanted to book, right? That donated and things like that. Excuse the train in the background. But what I would like to do is I would like to try to see if we can't get published through what is it? Lulin? How's it pronounced? It's off on the tip. Where Matt's published through them. Llewellyn, that's it. Llewellyn. I would like to try to get us published through Llewellyn. So that's the next step in this. I need to get enough of the manuscript finished, or at least enough to the point and edited to the point where I feel confident enough to send that portion of it to Llewellyn for review, to get us published through Llewellyn. So that is the next goal with this. So anybody that's into dropping some ritual, some spell work down to help us out with that, because that's dependent on whether or not they find it worth the sale. I think reaching our $2,000 limit is going to help. I think by telling Llewellyn, hey, we've already made $2,000 in support on this book and this Oracle deck, I think is going to help with that push. That is the goal.
Awesome.
Any other donations that are made, where there are still Oracle decks to be had through the Patreon. So if you want an Oracle deck, only those that have it still sticks. Only those that have kind of donated through. There's one person that's an exception. I'm not going to mention who. There's one person that's an exception when it comes to the Oracle deck. But if you want an Oracle deck, that is on the $200 or $500 level, so that's still there. And all of that, any future money that is given is just going to be added into the quality of what it is that we're going to be producing, or what I'm going to be producing. It's going to go right in there. It's like, so if I can go like that extra mile and do a crazy badass inlay cover, hardcover for you guys, that's one of the things I want to do. With that money. With the Oracle deck, one of the things that I would like to do is I would like it to have the red foil sides, and then I want the deck itself to be kind of inlay red foil, which will be kind of like, that will be exclusive to the people that kind of do the donations. So if you're capable, go for it. But the initial cost has been completely covered. The initial cost. There are going to be more incurring costs later on. Yes, there are going to be more incurring costs later on. But as of right now, everything that we need to kind of get, yes, it is. It is focused on balance. I'm calling it the balance oracle, or the oracle of balance. So there's going to be, it's kind of like taking the Baphomet theme and mixing it with the Zodiac. is kind of like the idea, the kind of like the direction the oracle is going. The book is obviously, it's called The Book of Baphomet. It is my conversations, my experience with Baphomet. Um, could you drop a link to the Patreon in there for me, please?
Maybe.
So we're gonna drop the link in right now for the Patreon. If anybody else wants to continue, supporting, it would be greatly appreciated. Again, anything that's added to supporting the book and the Oracle deck is going to be added to the quality of this. I really want to give back to you guys. I want to give you guys something that you're going to remember, something you're going to treasure and cherish in your collection, right? In your occult book collection. Like I was thinking, going like, if we can get like another $1,000, something like that, for those that want a special hardcover edition. I was thinking going full fucking. What's that book, dude, that has like that's made out of human skin? It's not, obviously I'm not gonna make a book out of human skin, but what's that movie? It's from a movie. What's it called? It's the Necronomicon, isn't it? The Necronomicon with like the screaming face on it, right? Like I don't know. I wanted to do some crazy shit like that, right? Yeah, I want to do some crazy.
Fun.
Like I want to do some crazy shit like that. Yeah, Evil Dead, right? The Necronomicon from the Evil Dead. Like I want to do some crazy shit like that for like a hardcover version. And then like I think one of the things that I think would be really cool, this is like much later on, is to make the book in such a manner that like make it look like maybe like this thick, but the book is actually like this, and like that second half of the book is a false book, and that's where your oracle deck is. Your oracle deck is inside of that book, right? So the box for the oracle deck is the book itself, like so. That's kind of like something like that, kind of looking at. So, if we can get it, we can get it. That would be great. So if we can't, we can't, because the initial expense, the necessary part that needed to happen for editing and things like that to make sure that everything is on point has been met. It has been met, right? So. Obviously, designers and stuff like that. I'm a designer, so I don't have to pay designers for anything. I'm designing the deck. I'm designing, like, everything's coming directly from me. So, yeah, if you guys want to add a little bit extra on top of that, please feel free, because, again, all of that is going to be going into the book, into the deck, increasing the quality, increasing what it is that you guys are going to be getting at the end of October. I'm super excited. I'm excited, guys. Like, we're there. We're on the home stretch here, right? So definitely going to be trying to get published through Llewellyn. Once the editor gets back to me with some of the pages, like maybe the first couple of chapters, I want to send the first couple of chapters to Llewellyn, see what Llewellyn says. If we can get if we can get published through Llewellyn, that would be fucking amazing. So again, anybody that, if you guys are into your, that ritual work, stuff like that, please, I openly accept you to do, some ritual work on my behalf. To make sure that we can get this book, published through a reputable source. That would be great, to be added into Llewellyn's, catalog of published authors. Will it be great for beginners work? Yes, it will be. If you are looking into working with Baphomet, the focus of this book is, one, understanding what Baphomet is. That's the first thing. The first aspect of this book is understanding what Baphomet it is, and that Baphomet is not just a representation. It's not just a representation. It's not. Through my experience. Like, now, to each their own, but I can tell you through my experience, Baphomet is not just a representation. So understanding what Baphomet is and what Baphomet asks of you, and how to appropriately give to Baphomet to receive from Baphomet, and how to leverage how to leverage and how leveraging balance in the occult, is something that a lot of people don't talk about. Like, we like to talk about these big, quick, major changes that happen working with entities like Belial or Baal or, Pyman. We like to talk about these big, amazing changes that happen in our lives because we work with these entities. Sometimes the slow and sure route is the better route for most people, little by little. And Baphomet is definitely on that, because Baphomet wants you to take your time. Baphomet wants you to think about what it is that you're doing. Baphomet wants you to look at and analyze every single angle of your life while you're moving through it, to make sure that you are in the right position to maintain your balance through the changes that you are creating. Because change can create imbalance. And through Baphomet, you can understand how to maintain balance through imbalance. So definitely something that it will be great for beginners. It'll be great for people that are like want something different about Baphomet that isn't repeated over and over and over again in other books, because I'm going to be divulging into conversations that I've had directly with Baphomet myself through the work and meditation that I've done. You know, the automatic writing. There will be words. I'm going to put it out there, guys. I'm going to put it out there, guys. Baphomet's words, it's their self, will be in this book. Not my words. Baphomet's words will be in this book. The words of Baphomet, what Baphomet has said to me directly through me, will be in this book. It will not only be about my perspective and my workings with them, but their own words. So, something that I know that as of right now, I know inside of myself that nobody else can offer. The words of the entity itself. So that's why it's so important to kind of put this out there. Anywho, enough about, publishing and things like that. So cheers, everybody, to finally getting, the goal met. And we're well on our way to having something fucking amazing for you guys in October. I'm super fucking excited. Now, one of the things like what I wanted to talk about this evening, right? Can't cheers and not drink. It's bad luck. So
who did that?
It was me almost.
Don't ever let it happen again. It's just horrible.
Right? Exactly. So one of the things I wanted to talk about. So I was watching this TV show the other day, and it's going to be funny that this is going to be an entire topic of conversation based off of a TV show. Kind of like one of those kind of like serial killer documentary things that you find on like just like Investigation Discovery and shit, right?
Ah, good. We're well versed in those.
Right. So, well, there's this one, it's called Killer Cases through Paramount Plus. And there's this one episode of this one guy that ended up killing his two brothers and his mother and identified as being Wiccan or being a witch, right? And then I guess the sheriff of that area was like globally plastered all over the place because he was talking about like a Wiccan, like a Wiccan human sacrifice ritual that was done on the blue moon or some shit. And like he specifically used Wicca as kind of like, like that point, which me watching it made me cringe because even though I'm not Wiccan, like I know that like that is completely outside of the like purview or like the spectrum of what Wicca is even about.
I feel like I've seen that. Like it sounds very familiar.
Well, it was all over the news apparently. This guy made international news by saying that. Like the occult community kind of went up in arms when this motherfucker kind of came out and said, "Well, hey, it was a Wiccan human sacrifice." It's like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Right? I mean,
Mayan maybe, but
right, exactly. So, but that's actually not the part that I want to talk about. So in the episode, they actually bring on this woman that in the area, I guess it's like in Ohio or some shit. In the area, she says that she's a high priestess. She's a Wiccan high priestess, right? And the thing that I found interesting, the reason I want to talk about this is because there was a certain segment in the show where she comes on and she says, "Well, I'm a high priestess and I can say if you're Wiccan or you're not Wiccan."
Oh.
And this person has nothing to do with this with our community. And I was like, wait, pump the brakes there. Pump the brakes there for a second, little miss. Wait a second.
Don't do that again. Now pump up the jam, pump it up. I got
right. Like I'm like
a long couple of weeks.
Like I was like, did you honestly just say that you can dictate and say whether or not somebody is something inside of the occult? Like that you have like the exclusive like ability to say whether or not someone is something else? Did I just hear that? Did I just hear a Wiccan high priestess say that she has the ability to say whether or not you're a Wiccan?
I
I'm like,
am the Grand Gatekeeper. Jesus.
and so here's the thing. So actually, I was sitting here while he was doing
God.
while Mystic was doing the reading. I wrote a question down that I think that explains the ridiculousness of gatekeeping, right? And it's a simple question. And I want you guys to heed this question and understand how ridiculous this question sounds, right? What does one need to do to be? Now think about that question. What does one need to do to be? Now to be, right? What's to be? Like if we know grammar, right? We know the verb to be, right? The verb to be is a state of being, right? Your existence, right? It's a passive kind of thing, right? You know, you can say I'm a lawyer, right? Or I'm in order to be a lawyer, what? You need to go through law school, you need to pass the bar, right? So that's what you need to do to be a lawyer. But if we remove the emphasis on the specifics on what it is we're talking about and just to be. So the question would be, what does one need to do to exist? So that is kind of like, for me, that's kind of like the antithesis of gatekeeping. Like, what do you need to be just to be alive, to be you, to be just to be a person? Do you need to go through somebody else to dictate whether or not you exist? Do you need to prove that you exist? Do you need to do certain things to prove that you exist as a human being, or do we just know that you exist? And that's what gatekeeping is. Gatekeeping is this wall in front of you where people are standing there saying, well, no, you don't meet our requirements, so you can't be this. Go ahead, Mystic.
Just what's I gonna say? I don't really have a whole lot to talk about in gatekeeping. It's not my thing. No. So, my first thoughts are ultimately, we know as we are born and as we grow into life that we base a lot of our initial thoughts and processes off of how we're raised as kids, and what events occur in our life and what we experience, and we use that to then apply it to situations of existence as we go. And we don't really often think about that existence as being an entity of itself or a thing that is in existence, right? And so we see in our society, especially speaking from the American front of it, but as a humanity, I think it's probably pretty similar, that we have to categorize or put things in boxes in order to understand them as quick as possible. Now, this is very beneficial when you're being chased by a lion, not very beneficial in a society of a bunch of idiots, which is, I'm an idiot sometimes. I include myself in that. I'm not being derogatory to anybody else.
Same here.
Yeah. So, as we go through all these things, some of us are on different paths and we start learning different things and we start processing different things and we start feeling different ways about different things. And each of those pathways of lead us to something, right? I was a gatekeeper, I could say, in a lot of things. It was very important to me to achieve academic success, right? That was how I defined myself. That's my state of being, was to be the top of my class, to be the top, in high school, to be the straight A student, and all through my associates, bachelor's, masters, all that stuff. I top of my class every time, and that is how I defined myself until I realized that the only thing that matters to is everybody else. Because when you exert your existence upon somebody else's measuring stick, you're never going to be on the top of it. And then you start looking at yourself as the measuring stick, right? And we talk about, the only person you have to be better than is you. And even that's a crock of shit. You don't have to be better than yourself ever. You just have to do whatever it is that you can to make yourself happy and work through the process. But human beings like to elevate themselves. And sometimes the only way they can do that is by de escalating somebody else. And that is where I get to the point where I start getting frustrated, and I'm like, I do it too sometimes. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. Like I've
Hmm.
caught myself saying, "Well, I've got a master's degree and you're an associate's. There's no way you know how to do this better than me on something nursing." And I'm like, I have been shown wrong that many times, so I don't think that way anymore. But I did, and I
Hmm.
realized that those things do help and do give me as a person growth in certain areas, but it doesn't give me the right to negate anybody else's experience because they're in their own situation
Yep.
and perspective bubble, and that's where we really screw up, is assuming everybody's in that same bubble.
Hmm. No, I think so. I put a lot of thought into this. So let's divert from the occult to Christianity and Catholicism. I know more than my fair share of Catholics and Christians that are would be considered non-practicing Catholics or Christians. Non-practicing was they don't go to church, right? So not going to church does not make you a Christian or a Catholic, right? Like what you feel inside of yourself, if you feel inside of yourself that you're a Christian or you're Catholic, then so be it. You are a Christian or Catholic because that is what you align with through whatever good book it is that you're reading. And I would like to say that, like, my initial reaction in the occult is to say that if you want to be left-hand path, if you want to be Satanist, if you want to be this, if you want to be that, like, my initial reaction wants to say that, like, if you're not practicing, then you're not. But that's not true, is it? That's just simply not true. Because if it's something, if it's a philosophy that you align with, regardless of whether or not you're actively practicing, let's take into consideration people that simply can't practice. Let's say people that are still living with their families and their families just simply don't understand and they're not capable of having or owning or doing anything that would allow them to practice in the way that perhaps Mystic and myself do. It doesn't. We shouldn't be able to negate or dismantle somebody else's belief simply because they don't have the ability to actively practice
And
something.
and who doesn't cycle though, right? Like I cycle in and out of practice. Like I will be really hardcore getting every Sabbath, every Esbet, every moon, every ritual, and everything perfectly for like 6 months, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm too tired to get off the couch today. So for 2 months, I don't do anything.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
We
same.
cycle in,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always been very frustrating to me to tell somebody else how they have to practice. I get too why people are very high on, and maybe you really believe in that high magic, ritualistic, and it has to happen, be perfect for you, and that's great. We need people like you, but don't tell me how the hell I have to practice. You keep doing your thing,
Exactly.
write your book, and I'll read it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like the thing is this idea. Now, I think part of the problem with this comes in that, like, we naturally look for leaders. Like as human beings, we naturally look for leaders. We look for people that we can trust that know more than us in order to guide us. And then, like, whether that's through a book or a seminar or a public figure or whatever, we have this kind of natural inclination inside of ourselves as human beings to look for somebody to validate who or what we are, because, like, well, we can name drop, right? Well, so and so says I'm this, so I'm this. Well, what happens when the day turns around? So and so says you're no longer that. One of the biggest things through my practice with Baphomet is self validation. Now, that's a psychological thing as much as it is a spiritual thing, right? I've briefly spoken about traumas and things I've been through on this podcast, and things that have happened to me. I have a tendency of looking for external validation, in many different levels. And that goes completely against my spiritual beliefs. My spiritual beliefs is the necessity to be able to validate myself through self. That I am what I am because I say I am that, not because you allow me to be that, right? Or you say that I am this, but because I say I'm this. If you notice, like, I don't ever really put a label on myself outside of left-hand path, because left-hand path is kind of like a general kind of like brushstroke, about this shit, right? It's kind of like left-hand path can mean a lot of different things. And I maintain that I'm left-hand path, but for those, for example, that like don't know or haven't been in these shows, like when it comes to spiritual path, like the spiritual path that I practice, I'm more Norse pagan than I am Satanist. Like Baphomet's my patron deity, but I still align emotionally and spiritually much closer to Norse paganism than I do to Satanism. And some people might think that that's completely fucking weird because they relate Baphomet with the devil. And for me, like, Baphomet isn't a demon, isn't a devil. Baphomet is a god. Baphomet is not a demon and is not a devil. Baphomet is a god for me. My two primary, entities that I work with are, as I've mentioned in the past, Baphomet and Hel. And I very rarely talk about Hel. Like my workings with Hel is like, that's very personal. And not going to lie, it's few and far between, but it's something that I do. You do.
That drives me nuts. I say that all the time too.
Right. I mean, I had to do it before somebody else in the chat did. So it's just one of those things. I spiritually speaking, I don't look for validation externally. And it's one of those things that, like, I can do this one thing, spiritually speaking, but it's difficult for me to do it personally speaking. That's another subject for another day. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. We simply don't have the time.
Put that on the notebook.
Yeah, exactly. But it's one of those things that, like, I just saw that because the whole thing is like, first and foremost, like, a part of me wanted to talk about kind of like the sheriff talking about, like, there being a human sacrifice through Wicca, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, this guy just does not know what the fuck he's talking about. Yes, Sophie. And then I heard, like, that high priestess say, well, I can say whether or not you're a Wiccan or you're not, and this person is not part of our community. And I'm like, ooh, like,
it honestly sounds like she might have been trying to be, like, helpful in some way, like by saying they don't align with values of most people that are Wiccan, which would have been the better way to say it.
Well, here's the thing. So this is kind of like how I look at things. There's always going to be bad actors. There's always going to be bad apples. It's going to happen inside of all communities. Every community there's going to be bad actors. Okay, regardless.
Yeah, because human sucks.
And I think that this guy was convicted of killing his two brothers and his mother, and still identified as being Wiccan, as being a witch. And I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm going to say the thing that nobody else wants to say. Him killing his family does not remove him from being Wiccan and does not remove him from being a witch. It doesn't. Take it however the fuck you want to take it. You want to get offended, you want to get angry, you want to get upset, go for it. Knock yourself out. Him murdering his entire family does not remove him from being Wiccan. Now, his actions do not align with the Wiccan Rede or most people inside of the occult. They simply don't. Right? But no one has the right to tell him or say publicly whether or not he is a part of a community or not part of a community. What this person should have said with more responsibility and conviction is that this person may be Wiccan to themselves, but their actions do not reflect that of what most Wiccans believe and is not indicative of the Wiccan belief. That is what this person should have said. Instead of trying to brush over the situation, remove the person from the community for fear of bad publicity. So it's funny that I took that side of things to talk about, but the thing is, it's easy to talk about a bunch of people that misunderstand what Wicca is and what witchcraft is and things like that. That's a dime a dozen. Like, honestly, if you think about it, it's a dime a dozen the people. You walk outside, you throw a rock, and you're going to hit somebody that thinks Wicca is devil worshipping.
Yeah.
So I mean that it's just a fact of life. But a fact that somebody that considers themselves a high priestess inside of the community had, understandably, like what Mystic said, they might have been trying to help, the community by kind of removing that negativity from the community because, the Wiccan community's dealt with a lot of flack in the past. But I don't think it was the right way to go about things. I think something like that does more harm than good, to sit there and make the claim that you solely have the ability to say whether or not someone is a part of a community.
Much so. Yep.
So, and it's one of the things that, like, within the left-hand path, and black magic and things like that. One of the things that I kind of want to stop seeing, I want to stop seeing people putting these gates up. They're going to be bad actors, people. If somebody wants to be a black magician, if somebody wants to be a Satanist, if somebody wants to be what the fuck ever, we don't have the right, any of us, regardless of level inside of our own communities. I mean, for fuck's sake, I run a community that's called the Order of Baphomet. Like, I'm the founder of the Order of Baphomet. Does that mean I have the right to say whether or not you worship Baphomet? No, I don't. Do I have the right to say that inside of my community, do you worship Baphomet in the same way that I do? I can say that you worship him differently, but I can't say that you don't worship him or that you don't work with him. I can't do that. That gives me no power. My being the head and the founder of the Order of Baphomet gives me no power to say whether or not you work with an entity. I have no power to say, no, you don't worship Baphomet. No, you're the way that you're doing things. No, that's not how you're supposed to do it. And you don't worship Baphomet. You're worshiping something else. I have no power to do that, nor would I attempt to do so. Right? I would not attempt to do that because it's not my place. Baphomet dictates whether or not you work with Baphomet. I don't do that. Baphomet does that. If you reach out to Baphomet and Baphomet wants to work with you, Baphomet's going to work with you. That's on him. That's not on me. That's on you and them. It has nothing to do with me. There's this gatekeeping fucking nature inside of the occult is very irritating. Now, the problem is again, human nature. So long as there are people looking for leaders, there are going to be idiots that are willing to lead you. Right? And let's not forget the Kool-Aid story, everybody. Right? Let's not forget what happened with that shit. Right? Exactly.
It's the flavor aid. It's the cheap stuff.
So let's not forget what happened when everybody drank the fucking Kool-Aid, yeah? If you find somebody that you respect inside of the community, if you find someone that you think that is guiding you well, then by all means, learn what you can from them. But do not allow yourself to fall into the trap of believing that this person needs to validate your beliefs. Please don't do that. Because that's lessening yourself. And as everyone knows, inside of the left-hand path, the most important thing in the left-hand path is self, the power of self. Hail thyself, motherfuckers. Hail thyself. Which is the reason I go with that phrase. Hail thy fucking self. Don't hail Satan. Don't hail Lilith. Don't hail Baphomet. I mean, hail whoever the fuck you want, right? But most of all, hail thyself. Hail thy own power. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. You are reaching inward and pulling out of yourself to give to the rest of the world, to give to yourself, to change the things around you. That's what we're looking at. That's what we're trying to do here. Right? That's the focus.
So, yeah. And stay away from the keywords of all, never, always, can't, have to. Anybody that's telling you shouldn't read books, you can't read a book, you can't learn from a book, or you have to go through a person, or you can't learn from this person, or this person's a fraud. When you're in the community, you need to figure that out for yourself. You need to use more than one source. I'm not saying go do a research paper. I'm just saying if somebody tells you X, Y, and Z, either experience it yourself, which is, to me, one of the best ways to do it. Read something about it. Read more than one thing about it. I know we talked a little bit before at some point about books. When people write books, oftentimes it's a repeat of that beginner mentality with things that are a little bit different. But that repetition is helpful when you're trying to learn something. But always go back to what feels right and appropriate for you. Experience it. If you feel like you've reached out to a deity and you feel them working in your life, then you did. Don't question it. Don't question yourself because somebody else says otherwise. I hear that all the time. Well, people say, look, I've been reaching out and I don't hear anything and I don't get anything back. And then you ask them a question. You say, okay, well, afterwards, how did you feel? It's like, I felt really good. I'm like, did you feel empowered? I felt pretty relaxed and like I really wanted to do it. What did you do? Well, I actually did go out and get a new job a week later. I'm like, then what are you saying you didn't hear back? You're not maybe not listening to some of it, but the key factor, the key thing for me is it's not good to go with somebody or something that always says you have to in a very specific way, especially if you're learning out. However, I also have to point out there are some people that really live by the interpretation and the specifics of certain books and texts and things, and I think that that's fine. It's just you really have to leave yourself open to what's working for yourself. And when you say "hail thyself," it reminds me. Rook often says, "I will just," and I'm gonna. I don't want to. I'll say it anyway. Go fuck yourself. It's one of my favorite things to say. It really is. And Rook's response to me is always, "I tried." Taking in the great mind that was Joan Rivers. And hail thyself is the exact same thing. Nobody knows it better than you truly. You may not know that you know it, but you do. Nobody will experience your experience better than you. Nobody will see your perspective better than you if you're open about it. So hailing thyself truly is what you need to be doing.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly.
And
no,
everything else follows with it.
Exactly. Believe in yourself to be able to believe in others and to believe in something else. Like you need to be able. My personal belief is that believing in yourself is the most important step in the left-hand path, because the energy that you're working with is your own energy, the energy that you're putting out into the universe, and you need to be able to believe in yourself and who you are as a person in order to really kind of like grab that energy from within and put that energy out there and direct yourself. The entities that we work with, generally speaking, are kind of like, directionals, right? It's kind of like a focal point. So working with Baphomet, for example, working with Baphomet is going to be, for me, trying to find balance inside of what it is that I'm doing with myself. Balance around me, right? Creating internal balance in order to create external balance. Right, so the work has to be done for yourself. So for anyone that's a Christian or anything like that, there's actually this movie, I can't remember what it's called, with Morgan Freeman. He played God in the movie, and there's this scene where he's talking to this woman in the restaurant, and I think that this explains the left-hand path and like a lot of things, in general with spirituality, a lot more than a lot of other things. Where he asks a few questions. He says, so if somebody asks for, patience, is God going to give them patience or give them an opportunity to be patient? If somebody asks for strength, is God going to give them strength or give them an opportunity to be strong? Right? If somebody asks for, to be closer to their family, this is verbatim from the movie, to be closer to their family, is he going to fill them with loving feelings or give them an opportunity to actually be closer to their family? And, it's Bruce Almighty. Okay. So, like, when I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about that, I look at it and I think that is very closely related to what it is that we do. Now, I don't think that most Christians were Catholics. Again, I don't think, right? But I think that, most people, most Christians and Catholics think it's like one of those things that God gives me strength and God gives me patience. And I think that the big differential with the left-hand path is that what Morgan Freeman said in that movie is, no, it's not that Baphomet gives you balance, but Baphomet's going to show you the opportunity that you have to be balanced. Because at the end of the day, you have to make the choice. You have to do the actions. You have to do that. You have to put the work in. Right? It's not that, Belial is going to give you the strength to rip through a situation, but rather Belial is going to show you that this is your opportunity to be strong. And this is how you can be strong. But again, you're the one that has to be strong. You're not given strength. None of the entities that we work with give us the thing that we're asking for directly, but give us the opportunity to demonstrate that we already have this thing inside of us. Again, hail thyself. Everything that you're looking for in your life is already inside of you. The entity or deity that you choose or wish to work with is merely a catalyst showing direction. That this is what you want to emulate, this behavior, this thing. And I think the sooner that we realize and the sooner that we understand that we don't need the validation of others externally, and we don't need the validation of, it would Baphomet punish you if you don't. Hell no. That's your choice. You punish yourself.
Laugh at you.
Yeah, you punish yourself. That's the thing. The punishments that you suffer in this life are the punishments that you put yourself through. If you're given advice, if you're given direction to do something and you don't do it, that's on you. Like no deity or God or anything like that is punishing you. You're punishing yourself through pure ignorance. And yes, just like what Mystic said, he'd probably laugh at you. Like, I gave you the direction. I showed you what you needed to do for yourself. You didn't do it. Deal with the consequences. That's what it's going to come down to. So I think the thing is like, one of the things that I notice with a lot of people getting into the path is that we get into the path because we want more control over our own lives. We want more control over our own path. But then we fall into this game of giving all of our, control to a high priest, a high priestess, a god, a goddess.
It's control without responsibility.
Uh-huh. And exactly, it is. It's exactly what it is. And you fall into the same game that Christians and Catholics fall into. So what the fuck's the point? Like, let's be honest with ourselves, everyone. Like, I know this is a tough question to ask, but if you've fallen into that game where you've gone into, like, the craft work, whether that be Wiccan, witchcraft, left-hand path, doesn't fucking matter. If you started walking down the path and then you've gone 100% all in on working with this deity, and then you sit back and you say, well, I guess, my God doesn't want this for me, or my demon doesn't want this for me. Motherfucker, it's not what your God or your demon want. What do you want for you? Like, if that's something that you want for you and you didn't take the steps and the actions necessary to actually reach that fucking thing, it's not your God and demon that's dictating whether or not you have that. It's you. Hail thyself.
I think that's learning, though. That's human beings trying to learn their own process. And that's one of the things that's always sad in the occult is when people get into the occult and they do those things. Haha, do. Yes, I know. And they do, process through those things. We kind of do the same thing and say like, yeah, ha, you should hail thyself and you should do this thing and make sure that, that's not the point. I'm like, but everybody is on a different part of their journey. One thing that I have noticed, though, I think I could be wrong, but for me, being part of the occult practice or any of the stuff that we're talking about here in the pagan realm is what I call it, because that just includes everything, is that we have a much quicker ability to rebound from those things. Because we're generally drawn to it in the first place because those other things aren't working. We've already identified that there's something that we're being told that's not meshing with the truth. So then you start searching for those occult things and you start getting into these paganism and all these other aspects, and you start learning left-hand path is not about devil worship in the way that you would think it was or whatever the case is. But people still are people. We're still going to do stupid things, be on a different part of our path and our practice, and we're going to be stupid. We're going to make dumb mistakes. We're going to be gatekeepers. We're going to be wrong. We're going to not hail thyself when we should. And I think all of us can probably come up with some really good examples right now where we can say how much we are trying to follow this path, but how much we are not following it because we're stupid humans and we're just trying to figure it out. But again, occult to me gives you so much more opportunity as a whole to identify those things and work on them quicker than I would say other religions have done for me.
No, I mean, and the thing is like, it's one of those things that, so here's the thing. So a lot of us reach into the past. We try to reach into history to find validation in our beliefs, right? We one of the things that for me personally, like I'll speak for myself, like when I first started kind of going into Wicca and stuff like that, like when I first started down that path, Like, one of the things that I always kind of looked for is validation that what I was believing in was older than Christianity, to make me feel that like what I was believing in was more valid than Christianity or God or anything like that, because it was older, because of the fact that it was older. Let me tell you something right now. Like, whether or not you work with Baphomet, you work with Balance, you work with the universe, or you decide to call him fucking Baffy the pink satanic unicorn, like, you know, whatever you choose to, like, if that's the phrase that connects you to Baphomet, if that's the phrase that connects you to what the fuck ever, right? It's like, I worship the pink fluffy unicorn. If that's what connects you to your entity, then you know what? It's the pink fucking fluffy unicorn. That's what it is. Because a name is a fucking address that we use to connect to an entity or a deity that is significantly older than anything that we have recorded in history. It doesn't matter the name that you use. It doesn't matter how far back you go. What matters is how deeply you connect. That's what matters. If what you use to call your deity, whatever fucking name it has, is what allows you to connect on that deeper level, then use it. And let no one else dictate whether or not that is correct. It's enough of this, like, Hollywood, Universal Studios, fucking, you know, old school, make it a horror movie type shit. I'm fucking Pizzozo, you know, shit. Whatever works for you. If that's what works for you, that's what works for you. If it doesn't, if you need something else, if you need something different, then make it different. Whatever makes you feel connected. Whatever makes you feel connected, that's the important part. Because if you feel connected, then guess what, motherfucker? You're connected.
Mm-hmm.
Be connected. However you feel you need to be connected. You don't need a bunch of mystical fucking robes and candles and shit all over the place to connect. If that's what helps you do it, go for it. Do you need it? Fuck no. Of course not. This motherfucker Mystic.
Why need it?
Right, well, that's the thing. Like,
That's the point.
If you need it, then you need it. But
I don't need any of it.
You know, but I mean, you used to, like, I don't know if you still do, but you mentioned it. You used to bring around like a mobile altar all over the place with you.
I stopped that mainly because they kept checking my bag because it looked like a gun case.
Oh.
So I'd always get the little letter saying, yeah, we went through all of your stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you probably, well, I hope you wear gloves, but regardless, you know, yeah, I stopped doing that. I use sigils now just to connect, and it just helps. It works that way perfectly fine. But like, I mean, even the tarot stuff, like all the tarot decks, like I don't need any of the tarot decks to do it, or any of the stuff that we have to do the work that we do. I enjoy it. It's a creature comfort. It's something I love. But could we do it without it? Abso-freaking-lutely. Do you need a wand? Nah. Do you need tools? Nah.
Mm-hmm.
You are everything.
Witch? No, it's not disrespectful. I have a statue of Baphomet right behind me. Like, for me, the name Baphomet works for me. I use the sigil of Baphomet from the Church of Satan. I'm not a Satanist. I'm not. Right? Do I consider myself a philosophical Satanist because I align heavily with LaVeyan Satanism as a philosophy? Yes, I do. I align very heavily with LaVeyan Satanism as a philosophy. But I am not a Satanist. I'm not. Like, I don't believe that Baphomet is Satan. And therefore, that negates the whole idea of being a Satanist. Right? Like, I don't think that Baphomet is a representation of Satan. I don't think that Baphomet is Satan. Like, and it's not that I don't think. I've been told that Baphomet isn't. By Baphomet. So, which is something that you're going to find in the book. There's like 3 chapters dedicated to, you know, this kind of misrepresentation that Baphomet has suffered over the last, like, you know, millennia. You know, and I get into very heavy detail, you know, about these conversations and things like that. Baphomet is balance. Baphomet is the epitome of the occult, is the balance of the physical world and the spiritual one. Anyway, guys, that is actually going to be it for today. Okay, we are out of time. Mystic is going to be running the post show. I got some family stuff I'm going to be doing, which involves nachos and movies. So
that's going to be a short post show because we're going to copy you and do the same thing. So
okay, so you know, but there will be a post show in the Discord. You know, Mystic will be running that, so please go hang out with Mystic. All right. He will be there. All right. There's nobody else in this world that I would trust you guys with more than Mystic and his partner Rook. Hopefully Rook will be there as well.
You
you
better
know,
fucking be.
so sadly this weekend I'm not going to be there. But thank you very much everyone for being here at the fucking Malice experience. All right, I am again Mr. Malice or Adius Day, depending on how you look at it. Go follow if you're not subscribed to Two Pondering Pagans, which is Mystic's YouTube channel. Go subscribe to Two Pondering Pagans because every Sunday they do the Sunday their little Sunday service thing, which is absolutely a delight to watch in the morning. Every Sunday, I know that I'm there. I may not talk very much, but I definitely have it on in the background. So go do that. Go subscribe to their channel. Absolutely amazing. If you're not subscribed over here, make sure that you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this shit. Get it out there. Get everybody seeing it. Again, if you guys want to hit up the Patreon, you want to help out with these little extras, that we're going to be doing, please do. Doesn't matter how little, how much you give. It's greatly appreciated. It's never necessary, never expected. Your presence is all that's needed. Every single one of you. You guys are fucking amazing. I love your fucking faces. And as fucking always, hail thy fucking self. We'll see you in the next one.
Deuces.